Hello everyone, welcome back to Brain Power classes. Today we are going to start with class 12th economics chapter number 3a, that is demand analysis. So today I'm going to explain demand analysis, which studies the behavior of consumers and the relationship between the price of a commodity and the quantity demanded. So demand analysis helps us understand how consumers make purchasing decisions and why demand changes under different situations. So let's start with the chapter. So meaning of demand, you can see here. So in ordinary language, demand means desire, but in economics, desire alone is not a demand, is not a demand. So for a desire to become demand, two more conditions are necessary, that is willingness to buy and the ability to pay. You can see here, demand desire plus willingness to purchase plus ability to pay is the demand. So just demand and desire both are different. Therefore, demand is equal to desire plus a willingness to purchase plus ability to pay. For example, a person may wish to buy a television, but if he does not have enough money, it remains only a desire, not a demand. So next we have definition of demand. So according to Bentham, demand demand for anything at a given price is the amount which will be at bought per unit of time at that price. Features of demand are: demand is relative concept. It is always expressed with reference to price and time. Now, next we have demand schedule. A demand schedule is a table showing the relationship between the price of a commodity and the quantity demanded. It can be of two types: individual demand schedule and market demand schedule. First, we will be going with the individual demand schedule. So you can see here, it shows individual demand schedule shows the quantity demanded by a single consumer at different prices during a given period. Here you can see the schedule in table 3.1: price of a commodity and quantity demanded of commodity X in kgs. So when price of a commodity was 10, consumer was purchasing 1 kg, and when it goes drop, when price was falling, at it price came to price of commodity when was 2 rupees. So consumer was buying 5 kgs. So when there is a more price of a commodity, consumer purchasing power is less, and when price of a commodity is low, purchasing power is more. So a price falls, quantity demanded increases, showing an inverse relationship. Next we have individual demand curve. So individual demand curve is interpretation of this table. You can see here, it is the graphical representation of the individual demand schedule is called the individual demand curve. So on x-axis represents the quantity demanded, you can see here, and y-axis represents the price. So the demand curve slopes downward from left to right, indicating that quantity demanded increases with price decrease. Next we have market demand schedule. Now, market demand is the total demand of all consumers for a commodity at different prices during a given period. So, it is obtained by adding the demands of all individual consumers. For example, market demand is demand of a consumer A plus B plus C. You can see here, see this market demand schedule. In this table you can see the price of consumer A, consumer B and consumer C. It is the addition of all consumers in market demand. As price falls, total demand decreases. You can see a market demand curve. So the graphical representation of market demand is called the market demand curve, and it slopes downward from left to right because price and quantity demanded have an inverse relationship. This was demand curve, market demand curve. Now we will be learning the reasons for justifying downward sloping demand curve as follows. The first is DMU, that is law of diminishing marginal utility. So as consumption increases, additional satisfaction from every extra unit decreases. Therefore, consumers buy more only when price falls. Second reason is income effect. When the price of a commodity falls, the real income of consumers increases. So as a result of this, consumers can buy more of that commodity. Next is substitution effect. When the price of a commodity rises, consumers shift towards cheaper substitutes. This causes, therefore, demand for the expensive commodity decreases. Next reason, we have multi-purpose uses. Some commodities have many uses. When their price falls, they are used for additional purposes, increasing demand. For example, electricity and milk. We use electricity for many purposes and milk too. Next, we have new consumers. A fall in price enables new consumers to purchase the commodity, thereby increasing the demand. So these were the reasons for justifying the downward sloping of demand curve. Now we will be seeing the types of demand. You have question on this in exercise also, and in many times in board also one question is on this types of explain types of demand. So there are 5 types of demand: direct demand, indirect demand, complementary or joint demand, composite demand, and competitive demand. First is direct demand. So demand for goods that directly satisfied human wants are known as direct demand. For example, cloth, sugar, food. Next we have indirect demand. Demand for goods used in further production. Example, labor, machinery, raw materials. These are used for. Next, complementary or joint demand. So demand for goods used together to satisfy one want is known as joint demand or complementary demand. For example, you can see car and petrol, pen and ink, tea and sugar. This composite demand. Demand for goods having multiple uses is known as composite demand. Examples are electricity, milk, coal. Cooperative demand. So demand for substitute goods is known as cooperative demands. Examples are tea and coffee. We have options for that. So some will prefer tea, some will prefer coffee. Butter and jam, sugar and jaggery. These all are competitive demand. Now these were the types of demand. Now we will be moving the determinants of demand, the major topic. So demand depends upon several factors. So that several factors we are going to learn here. So few are listed below. The first is price. So price means price of the commodity. So higher price reduces the demand, while lower prices increases the demand. Second, we have income. Increase in income increases demand. Decrease in income decreases demand. So it is vice versa. Third, we have price of substitute goods. A rise in the price of one substitute increases demand for another, because we have options for that. So they switch to substitute goods, other goods, cheaper goods. For example, if sugar becomes costly, demand for jaggery will increase. Next, we have price of a complementary goods. So change in the price of one commodity affects the demand for another. Example, if petrol becomes expensive, demand for cars may decrease. Nature of product. Necessities are demanded irrespective of price change. For example, medicines important. If price increases, medicines price increases, then also we have to buy because it is necessity. It is necessary product. Size of a population. Large population increases higher demand. Large population means high demand. Low population means low demand. Expectations about future prices. People buy more today if they expect prices to rise in future. कल प्राइस बढ़ने वाली है तो हम आज कम कम पैसों में ज़्यादा खरीदी करेंगे. And it is vice versa. Next we have advertisement. So advertisements and sales promotion influence consumer demand. If we have any product, जितनी प्रोडक्ट की एडवर्टाइजमेंट होगी, एड्स लगेंगे, लोगों को पता चलेगा, तो उसके लिए डिमांड जो है वो इंक्रीज होगी, उसकी सेल्स जो है बढ़ेगी. टेस्ट हैबिट्स एंड फैशंस. चेंज इन कंज्यूमर प्रेफरेंसेस अफेक्ट डिमांड. लेवल ऑफ टैक्सेशन. हायर टैक्सेस इंक्रीज प्राइजेस एंड रिड्यूसेस डिमांड. लोअर टैक्सेस इंक्रीजेस डिमांड. And other factors we can say climatic condition, changes in technology, government policy, customs and traditions, etc. So next we have law of demand, the important thing. We are many times one question is asked on law of demand or either law of supply, so prepare well for this, and we have question in exercise also on this. So law of demand. So the law of demand was introduced by Professor Alfred Marshall. Statement of the law is, other things remaining constant, higher the price of a commodity, smaller is the quantity demanded, and lower the price, larger is the quantity demanded. So thus the price and the quantity demanded have an inverse relationship. Symbolically we can say, you can see here, dx is equal to f into f divided by px. So where d is the demand for commodity, x is commodity, f is function, and px is the price of a commodity. So this was the law of demand statement and its symbolical representations. Now we will be seeing the assumptions now. So law of demand is based on the following assumptions. So first is income of consumer remains constant. सेकेंड, एज साइज ऑफ पॉपुलेशन रिमेन्स अनचेंज, कोई भी चेंज पॉपुलेशन में नहीं होना चाहिए. प्राइसेस ऑफ सब्सटीट्यूट गुड्स रिमेन कॉन्स्टेंट, जो भी सब्सटीट्यूट गुड है उनके प्राइसेस जो है कांस्टेंट रहने चाहिए, उनमें चेंज नहीं आना चाहिए. प्राइस ऑफ कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री गुड्स आल्सो रिमेन कांस्टेंट. फिफ्थ, वी हैव नो एक्सपेक्टेशन अबाउट फ्यूचर प्राइजेस. फ्यूचर्स में प्राइस बढ़ेगी इसकी कोई एक्सपेक्टेशन नहीं होनी चाहिए, तभी ये लॉ ऑफ डिमांड ट्रू होगा. सो नो चेंज इन टेस्ट हैबिट्स एंड प्रेफरेंसेस, कोई चेंजेस नहीं आने चाहिए कंज्यूमर के टेस्ट हैबिट्स, प्रेफरेंस और फैशंस में. टैक्सेशन पॉलिसी में कोई चेंज नहीं आनी चाहिए, इट शुड बी सेम. So these were the few assumptions mentioned here. So thus demand analysis explains the relationship between price and quantity demanded. It also helps us understand various forms of demand and the factors affecting consumer behavior. So this was the first part. In the next part we will study demand schedule, exceptions to the law of demand, and different types of changes in demand. So see you in next part.